My name is Peter Pilgrim. I am a software developer and I'm specialised in developing software for the investment banking sector. Tonight we have Ben Forsaith, especially from Adobe, and he'll be presenting. He's very kindly offered to give us this talk this evening. Ben is a product specialist for the Adobe Flex and Lifecycle Technologies, and he helps developers like me and you, designers and key business customers, understand Adobe technologies. He's also a great architect, am I right in saying so? Yeah. And of course they are using Adobe Flex and Flash technologies. And ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome. Let's give it up for Ben Forsaith.
Thank you very much. Cool, thanks guys. Right, let's get started. So, I'm going to run through just a few slides, and then really going to spend most of the time actually demoing some stuff and going through some code, which will hopefully be okay. So, really, I guess what it's all about, we're talking about rich internet applications. But that term's been around for a while now. I hope everybody knows what it means about richer, more engaging experience online, regardless of what technology you use to actually implement that. It could be AJAX, it could be a series of technologies. Really what we're going to focus on tonight is how we can actually extend the browser to actually deliver a series of capabilities which I believe and Adobe believes represents a rich internet application. So, and I'm going to run through a series of demos to illustrate this. So the first area that we're really focusing on is expressiveness. It's kind of a made-up term. I don't think it actually exists as a word, but really it's all about having something on the web page or running inside the browser that is an engaging experience. It's an innovative application that's easy to interact with, draws you in, and is very expressive. And that is a key element in user interface design. We want people to discover the application very easily, to get involved, and ultimately stay on the site and actually openly transact. Another area we can talk about is performance. Rich internet applications typically work with a lot of data. There are a lot of data of different types, and actually ensuring that we've got a very performant runtime environment inside the browser is a key area. And another aspect of rich internet applications which are really starting to come to the fore now is real time. So we actually want the ability inside the context of the browser feed information, could be price changes, could be store inventory or anything like that. Could be social networking where you've got chat applications, video sharing applications and so on. And you need a plugin to extend. And the fourth area is around rich media. So we want to include rich media elements inside our applications. One, because it makes them expressive. Two, because it's a great medium to actually communicate. Video, audio, pictures and so on are a great way to include and extend your rich into application. Now this fifth point is kind of interesting, and we'll come on and talk to technology a little bit later this evening about offline. And this is actually thinking about the situations where you may want your rich into application to be able to go offline. So that's being able to perhaps interact with the desktop, to actually save data and information to the local file system and so on. And of course behind all of this we actually want a consistent programming model to actually deliver this type of applications. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through some demos of applications which I think fit into that category. And then we're really going to get into how this has been built, what's actually behind them, and then really when you get access to this stuff and then start building this yourself. And by all means, if you've got questions as we go through, just shout out and interrupt. Okay, so let's start with expressiveness. Again, that term. This is an application that you may you may recognise, this user interface control from iTunes. Something that iTunes is a great expressive desktop application, and this sort of display shelf control is a great way to actually navigate through information. So here we've got photos which are organised into this control, and you can scroll very neatly backwards and forwards. And you may also notice that underneath the image there's actually a reflection actually in place as well. So it's a very expressive application. Now we can go further if I actually open up another example. This is a book control, which has actually been built with Flex. And the idea behind this is actually gives us a very simple interface for actually navigating through information. So this is why a book about anatomy. And you can see that I can do really nice things. So I can turn the page here, and I get very visual transitions of information. We've got transparencies going on. So hopefully you agree. Albeit, perhaps a touch gimmick. It is it's a very cool application, very engaging, something that you can get involved with very easily, and a completely unique way to actually display data and other types of information. Now, if we think about expressing this perhaps in a less sort of gimmicky environment, actually think about an application where this can actually be useful. This is a stock chart which was implemented for a very large financial institution. And this was a piece of work that was done to overcome a problem where they had a spreadsheet. Basically, what happened is that every hour the spreadsheet was emailed around all the traders on the trading floor, and they would see the number of buy orders that they had to purchase in that given day, the number of sell orders from any given stock that they had to fulfill. And of course, they can make a margin on betting the sales against the buyers and so on. A great stock person, but hopefully you get the idea. So what they actually needed, they needed a web interface to replace the spreadsheet that was emailed around and actually deliver a very rich visual interface. And this is what we came up with, or what Adobe Consulting actually came up with. And the idea here is, you can see as I roll down over these stock information, these blue bars are the buy orders, and you can see the light blue is what is actually being purchased, and the red bars are what needs to be sold. So you can instantly see what needs to be sold. As I roll over the data, I can see information. I can go into actually sort this information at different things as well. So again, a very expressive, engaging application, and you may be able to notice. I'll go back to the table side. You notice that periodically some of these actually change. So in this case, it's just simulating a live feed, but actually this application can be hooked up to a live feed, so you're actually doing real-time push of information to the application. So these are types of expressive applications that are possible using Flex. And this is another very simple application.
Can I just ask, all the examples you showed, they're not just built with Flash, they are using Flex.
They're built with Flex, yeah. And what Flex does is it compiles Flash bytecode, and then that bytecode executes on the Flash virtual machine. Yeah. So yeah, all you need is a browser and a Flash player, which is the Flash virtual machine, and then Flex allows you to build that Flash bytecode and back. So this example, I won't go through all the details. Again, I'm going to concentrate on the expressive feature. This is a policy form for claiming you've got an accident. And the idea here is you go through and you can fill out all your details. You would validate all this information. The validators are turned off in this demo. But when I get through to sort of descriptions here, I can go on the Toyota. So of course I'm very environmentally friendly, so I'm naturally driving that Toyota Prius. It's 2006, and it's that car. I continue. And now we get back into sort of engaging experiences. So how many times have you, well hopefully not too many, because that would mean you've had an accident, but you may be filling out an insurance claim form. You've got to indicate what's been damaged in the car. So I can choose things like front bumper, or I can choose the dent empty and then the front back is missing and so on. So if you get that here. So very visually we can actually start to put this stuff together. And now we can get into the kind of the really wacky and expressive. I can actually sort of choose my point of impact for this particular. The idea is really that these applications can be very creative and be, but some of the creative stuff can be a touch gimmicky, but actually a lot of it is very useful. Now the next area that I focused on was performance, and in my sort of introduction. And what I've got here is a little Ajax application which retrieves some rows from the database. And certainly what I'm not doing is having a pop at Ajax. We're actually going to show some demos a little later which are using the Ajax framework from Adobe, which is called Spry, and also some examples of actually using Flex and Ajax together. There's a lot of applications out there which have taken that hybrid approach. Google Finance, for example, uses Flex charts and Ajax data to actually explain information. But the problem is, you can't get away from the fact that if I retrieve 1,000 rows from the data, from the database in this Ajax application, it's interpreting JavaScript that's run in the browser to actually run that. So here 1,000 rows comes back in, getting on for 4 seconds, so 3.8 seconds. That's not too bad. If I go up to 5,000 rows, things start to slow down a bit. And I'm actually sure I hit the retrieve button. Oh, I did. So 11 and a half seconds. Well, what we can actually do with Flex, because we've got that virtual machine running inside the browser, it's an optimized virtual machine with a just-in-time compiler. So there's a correct machine code, which means we can actually render the information that's retrieved from the database very, very quickly indeed, as opposed to the interpret JavaScript that has to actually run through the browser. So if I go straight to 20,000 rows, for example, I can retrieve 20,000 rows in an eighth of a second, or 0.8 of a second. And what I can then do is I can also actually sort those rows. So I can sort 20,000 rows, sort by age, by ID, and I can actually drag this stuff around very easily. So in this simple Flex component, not only do we get great performance, but we get some extras for free as well. So let's move on to real time. What I've actually got, I've got a Tomcat running here, little Tomcat server, which is all my Flex applications are running on. What I can do is I've actually got a feed which I can start here, and hopefully you can see that ticking up in the background. And then I built a simple feed client, which I'll load up. As you get, there's another simple Flex application, which I can say to subscribe to that feed. So as the feed is being generated by this piece of Java code, which is generating random numbers on Tomcat, it's actually pushing that into this Flex application. And it's on the browser here. I can unsubscribe. So that's fine. Not particularly visual, but it shows you the capability. I'll show you something that's a little bit more visual. And this is where we've actually put multiple feeds into a browser. You can see the red and green actually changes in stock. Of course, another thing that we can do, we can actually chart and graph this information as it's fed in real time. So there's a whole series of components that come out of the box with Flex, which allow you to build these applications very simply and easily. And one of those components is a line graph component, which you can push this data into the charts real time. So you can really start to build some real-time applications very easily. So I'll whiz through another example as well. And this is where we introduce another sort of breed of rich internet applications. Just get my browsers organised here so you can actually see both information together, both browsers together. And the idea behind here is I've got a simple dashboard application presenting me with some sales details. But you can see actually as I navigate around in this first application that the application that's in the background so simulating two different users, is actually kept in sync. And the way that we do that is using Flex Data Services, which actually allows us to do real-time publish and subscribe messaging between these two applications. So you can really start delivering. Bearing in mind that the client for this is still just a browser and then a Flash virtual machine running inside the player. And I can even implement the pie chart and so on.
So that could be two different users on a different continent or on different
devices? Two users on opposite sides of the globe, working on the same dashboard, sharing information and so on. And what we'll also come on to see is how we actually manage the situation where you may got multiple users, perhaps in a call center environment, actually working on the same customer information at the same time. So actually, let's show that now. So if I go back to this environment, I'm going to bring up in this browser a very simple mortgage application. I'm not really going to run through this in any great detail. The idea here is, again, you've got a very rich visual interface to display this mortgage data as I navigate around this. I can then choose a mortgage and then go and apply for it. And I would then fill out this form using this Flex application, which is all quite good. What I actually want to do is I've got a question, and what I want to do is actually engage with a CSR. So what I'm going to do is bring up this other browser in the background here. This is a customer services representative view. And if I click on the help window here, it launches a help window that also brings up this live consultant here. And she's going to talk back. And the idea being here that I can chat from this application, I can ask a question about the time gap and the lovely Lucinda here, the loan officer, can actually give me the answer. But we can go further actually. If I move this over so you can actually see it, what hopefully what you can see is I click through as a CSR, then over here in this browser, my form is actually changing at the same time. So I've actually got these two browsers kept completely in sync. So the service representative is actually able to control my browser. And I can even go as far as actually doing shared data entry. So if I type in the first line of my address, the 12 the high street, for example, that pops up in the CSR browser here as well. So it really opens up a whole new breed of applications. And finally, we can go on, in terms of demos, we actually have a look at rich media as an example. So again, one of the things, we've actually already seen this an example with that video there, but again, one of the things I can do is you get that YouTube experience where the video just starts playing, it's instant inside the browser. Of course, YouTube is using technology to deliver this. You may notice the captions here are actually also being pushed into the video. So you can really do a lot with rich media in terms of immersing it inside your application and making it part of the process. So what I wanted to, I know that was like about 20 little demos of Flex applications, but I want to give you a little bit of sense of some of the stuff that we've been working on, some of the customers are doing. So some of those examples are prototypes that are now in production with various customers, and I will give you at the end a couple of examples of my customers that actually implemented Flex. But I guess it's probably time to actually shift gear a little bit and actually talk a little bit more about the technology, how it's built, how it integrates with Java, and how you can leverage Flex to actually deliver front ends with it on top of a Java backend. So I want to talk about the programming model for Flex. That's a very important environment in any development. And the programming model is really made up of two components: MXML, which is essentially an XML markup language, which is laying out the user interface elements of your Flex application, and then ActionScript. ActionScript is actually ECMAScript 3, revision 4. So it's standards compliant, based on ECMAScript. And that's actually the script that you write inside your Flex application to actually make it work. To actually do things. So we're going to cover quite a bit of code. So let's start with a really simple example, kind of introduce you to the development environment for Flex, and then you can see how it actually builds stuff. So get rid of some of these. Just minimize this. So the Flex development environment is based on Eclipse. So it's Eclipse 3.2 you need, and then you can install Flex Builder as a plugin inside Eclipse. So it's pretty easy to get started if you're already there. Anybody using Eclipse? Really? Yeah. I think everybody nodded. Yeah. Good. So here's an application, and I realised that code shouldn't be there. That's what I'm about to build. So can you see that code? I did change the font size just to make it a little bit bigger. Do let me know if you can't see that. So basically this Flex Builder tool comes with two primary views. There's a source view and a design view. And then you can switch quite easily between the two just using this little toggle here. And when you switch into design view, what you can actually see are all the components that we provide to you as part of the Flex software developers kit. And I should point out that the Flex software developers kit is entirely free. So you can download the software developers kit. It comes with a compiler, it comes with a debugger. So if you're willing to work inside any sort of text editor, work with a command line compiler and a command line debugger, you can build Flex applications just like this, completely for free. So we're lucky to go and get started. However, if you're more used to working inside an IDE environment and you want a bit, want some code hinting and the interactive debugger and so on, then that's where Flex Builder comes in. So what Flex Builder allows you to see are the components that are delivered in that free SDK. What I want to do is I'm going to start with a panel component, and I can just drag this out to my canvas essentially, and I've got a component, and then I can actually start to specify some properties. So I want this panel actually acts as a container for other UI elements. So I've got this background canvas as one container, and then I've got this panel as a second container. I'm going to say that I want everything inside that panel to be laid out horizontally. Or I could do it on a pixel basis, but I'm going to say horizontally, and I want that panel to be 100% wide and 100% height. So you can see quite clearly. It's pretty easy. There's basically property inspectors for each of these components. By changing the properties, then you build out your application. So I can say I want this title to be mobile phones. That pops in my title up here, and I now need to actually build out some controls. I want a control bar drop in at the bottom of my application, and then inside that control bar I want a button. So pretty simple application so far. And this button I'm going to say is going to be called Get Data. So pretty straightforward stuff. So I've now got basically the outline of a visual layout for an application. If I look at the source for that, you can see how simple it is. So it's well, it's less than, get rid of the spacing, it's got 10 lines of code. There you can see there's the panel tag that was popped into the application, a control bar, my button, and so on. And that's all you need to actually do to specify this application. So I guess most applications require some sort of data. So how do we get data into an application? Well, the simplest way to actually get data into an application would be to make a HTTP service call to some sort of XML data source. So that could be a servlet, JSP page, anything like that generates XML dynamically for you on the server side. In this case, I'm just going to say HTTP service, I'm going to give it an ID called s.v, and I'm going to give it a URL. And in this case, I'm actually just going to say it's data/catalog.xml. So it's a bit of static XML content that I've got there on the file system. So that's all I need to do to define, to put this application up to a piece of data. So I need something to actually display that data. So what I can do is very quickly say, let's carry on data grid. And again, I'm going to give it an ID so that I can actually reference it later. It's called data grid. And then I'm going to give it a data provider. And all that data provider I need to say inside that is I use a syntax here, curly braces, which actually denotes data binding. So what I'm saying is actually bind this data grid to the results of the HTTP service call that I did earlier. So that's SRP. So you'll notice the code completion here. This will be the last result. And then I happen to know that the structure of that XML file returned is catalog of product. Product is the item that I want to iterate in my data grid. So that's all I need to do. Other than I'm going to again specify some UI properties for this data grid. I want it to be 100% wide and height. This will be 100%. And then I actually need to actually call something to actually get data. So on this button, this quick event, and I'm going to say SRB, which is the name of my service, send, which actually goes and gets the data from me. So if I run that, it'll ask me to save it. If I get any compile time errors, they'll show up at the bottom of the screen, my little problem area on my console. My word it compiled. Good. I'm going to run and I get some data. So it's done, so in 10 lines of code, I can retrieve that information to data grid. And of course I can sort it. I can sort by price, sort by product ID, and so on. So that's all very well, but it's not particularly expressive in terms of the UI, but we can change that pretty easily. If I change this to a tile list component instead of data grid, so rather than copy this out of data grid, copy this out information out to tile, I can then say item, and if I just do control space, it gives me the options, item renderer, and then, oops, capture bar. What I'm doing is I'm referencing here another pre-built component, which you can see here. This other MXML files. Again, MXML is this language we're using here. And so all I need to do is to actually build discrete components and then just reuse them very easily inside my application. So if I now run this, hopefully if it works this time we're going to get data. It brings back the images first, because that little thumbnail actually renders the image and this other data, the dollar amount and so on, these button controls. They're all encoded and captured inside that component. And I can go even further very quickly. So if I now want to say, if I want to use a custom component rather than a standard component, I can actually define a different namespace, and my namespace in this case. And here, see I've got a component registered in this namespace with my product details, and I can actually say product, in other words, the product I select. And again, I can use data binding to say data grid dot select your item. Is there? Yeah, good. So it's pretty straightforward to build this stuff out. We're going to get into some of the tools that you can use to deliver this. So hopefully, if this works, when I get data, you notice I've got this Omni panel here. That's the product details component that I just typed in. And if I drop, if I now navigate around on phones, you can see that I get this sort of master detail relationship between the two phones, and then I get going to support tab. I've got rich media embedded inside that as well. So that's that first simple application. My application. That just to give you a little idea of how we build these applications. And if I put this together also just to show you, the interactive debugger, which I'll run through very quickly in Flex. So it's exactly the same application, but rather than do the call to that srp.send on the actual button itself, rather than what I'm actually doing is calling a function. Of course, it's a much cleaner way to do it. Call a function get data, and this is the ECMAScript which is used to define this data. So hopefully nothing here is too scary in terms of script is pretty similar syntactically to Java and JavaScript. So basically declaring a private function called getData which returns void, in other words it's not returning anything. Trace statements, there's the SRB will send, not trace something. And then here I'm actually simply defining an array, pushing into data into that array and again tracing that. So if I actually now debug this application, just so that you can see that. Still building all those places in the background. Alright, so now I'm going to hit get data to the actual debugging perspective comes into view, and I can now interactively step through this code so I can trace the data, there's some information on the next line, how well, and so on. And here you can see the phones array has been defined, but it's null. Now it's got a length of instantiated, it's got a length of 0, drop down, you can see all the values that we push into that particular array, and so on. So it's very easy to inspect the variables that you're working with, or the breakpoints in the code. So yeah, it's a very, hopefully for Java developers, it's a very familiar environment to actually debug this stuff and actually put it together. So this script is pretty easy to get hold of, pretty easy to work with. So that's kind of building my first Flex application. And I wanted to say a little bit about the script that's inside Flex. We call it ActionScript. Hello there.
Hello, David.
So, I don't know if anybody's heard of the Tamarind project. The Tamarind project is been run by the Mozilla organization. So it's an open source project that Adobe is contributing to. Basically the goal, I'm going to read it all out, the goal is basically to implement the next version of ECMAScript for addition as part of the spec, which will actually be part of SpiderMonkey. SpiderMonkey is the core JavaScript engine that's inside Firefox, and then any other browsers or products that are based on Mozilla. So we contributed the virtual machine from the Flash player to that project because we've already implemented that standard inside the Flash machine, which is the code just showing. So it's a project that's open source. So the idea being that come 2008, when the next version of Firefox rolls out, the JavaScript that you'll be writing for Firefox browsers will be actually the same as ActionScript. So you actually switching between both environments, hopefully it makes it much more standard, much more easy for you to adopt. So hopefully a good way for Adobe to contribute back to the community. So I'm kind of aware that we haven't really said what is Flex, what all the components, how does it actually work. I know we've talked through things at a very high level. So first of all, let's just clear some of this terminology up. So there's a Flex software development kit, which I mentioned up front is free. So the Flex SDK can be downloaded, consists of MXML, ActionScript, and a Flex class library. And then wrapped around that is the integrated development environment Flex Builder based on Eclipse. And we've already seen some of this code XML and ActionScript in action. What happens is that compiles to bytecode, which is an SWF format, Swift format, and we then take that bytecode, deploy it on the web server, and when you come along with your browser with the Flash player inside it, the Flash virtual machine downloads that bytecode, compiles it using the just-in-time compiler, which is part of the Flash player, and then executes that application. And then from that point on, all you're really involved in is actually exchanging data to and from the backend. So again, we have capabilities to exchange XML over HTTP, so we kind of already saw that in the little demo of my first Flex app where we made an HTTP service call. Could be web services that we're invoking. Alternatively, we we can actually look at sort of an RPC approach with back-end Java objects and ProJos. We're also going to come on and talk about Flex Data Services 2 and how that actually allows us to integrate with Spring, Hibernate and other Java frameworks for actually exchanging information. So, in terms of class library,
You mentioned the support SOAP-based web services.
Yeah.
We support also WSQL extension for the web services stack.
To be honest, I'm not sure. I'll have to check into it. We can check that at the end. And see what we can come up with. So in terms of UI components that are involved in the, or sort of free as part of the class library, there's a whole series here which kind of UI controls, media components for video and audio, layout management. We've already used some of these. So we used Panel, for example, to actually lay out some advanced components on the screen. Some of that requires charting controls and so on. So a little bit of a word about the Flash Player. The Flash Player is the virtual machine that all these Flash applications actually run on. It's successful because it's out there on 98% of all PCs and other desktops. It's cross-platform, cross-browser. We take care of making sure that it executes. And it's a very lightweight environment. Flash 9 is about 800 GB to download, so it's we download very simply. So it's Linux. We've just announced a Solaris version of Flash Player 9. Also is going into beta. So and Windows and Mac as well. So it's a cross-platform runtime. It's really up there. And we took a lot in Flash Player 9 to really beef up the performance to actually make it a true enterprise class virtual machine. So we added just-in-time compiler, which actually really dramatically boosts performance. And then because of our adoption of ECMAScript 4, it can be a dynamic type, but we actually err on the side of static typing, which enables runtime checking and so on. And actually, really great way for us to boost performance. And in terms of deployment, it's really simple to get. Basically, you deploy a Flash application out there, Flex application out there that's somebody hasn't got Flash Player 9. There's a bit of code you can drop into your applications, one-click upgrade. It's pretty simple and it's fully backwards compatible. So in terms of deploying an application, it's pretty easy to do. So, time to talk about Java integration. We've shown a lot of expressive examples and performance examples up front of Flex applications, but how to actually make it interact very neatly with the Java world, and therefore make it a good option for Java integration in terms of delivering front end in Flex with a Java native backend. So I guess the best way to illustrate that is probably going to be with some samples. So let me switch out my debugging perspective there. And what we need is a little RPC example. So here I've got a little application defined in MXML, which I can go through really simply. So again, it's a pretty straightforward application. This time, instead of using the HTTP service call, which we defined to get data, we're now using the remote object tag. Again, we called it SIV, and this time we've mapped that onto destination called product. So on the server side, we have something called the remote config.xml, which is basically a deployment descriptor which defines the product channel. And you can see that the product destination here is defined inside this file and actually maps onto a piece of Java code, Java class called flex.testdrive.store.productService, which is just happens to be where I put my code. And the Java for that looks like this. So it's a pretty simple Java class which uses DAO to get the information from the database. So here you can actually see this is the method that we're going to call on this Java class, called getProduct. It runs a simple select statement from a database that we're running here. It's the local database running again inside the Tomcat environment, and returns basically the result set called product. So that's how the Java side of it is running. This file maps between my destinations and my Java world. So now, if I run this piece of code, get data, then actually execute, so instantiate that Java class, call that method, and then return those results. So very simply, you can access plain old Java objects on the already deployed on the JT environment or the Tomcat environment, and away you go. So that's a pretty simple RPC example. What else do I have?
What's running? Where is that service running? Or did you start that one?
So that's running here in my little Tomcat instance.
So that's basically just a server that you configured it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a straight old Tomcat environment. And inside which I've deployed Flex data services, which is a war application which you just deploy inside that environment.
Sorry, I might jump ahead of it a little bit, but how do you said you can use data services to call screen and stuff? Great, but if I don't have aspect-oriented components sitting in front of those classes, will it integrate with that? Or, I mean, if you have, should I say, if you have that listener sitting there, that's not particularly what I might want, because I might have a lot of interceptors sitting in front of me checking security and sessions and all that stuff. Does it integrate well with that? We're using Spring.
Absolutely. So, you point out a key point. So, one of the problems with the RPC approach is that Flex Data Services is doing instantiation of that class, which is something that you may not want. If you're using a framework like Spring and you're using dependency injection and all that great stuff, then you need to implement that. So, let me actually show how that works. So I'm not a huge expert on Spring, but I can show you some examples and show you how we've integrated it. So we have a very simple application here called, which is a simple mortgage calculator application. So I can open that up here. So you can see the code. Let me just get rid of this stuff. I don't want to get confused. So if I open up the MXML file, again you can see that this is mapped to a remote object, and that's mapped to a destination called mortgage service. If I open up my remoting config, you can see that we've got down here we've got the destination here, mortgage service. But actually, rather than directly map onto the class, it maps to a factory called Spring. So if I look at my services config for XML, we're right down. So again, all these XML files are just configuration files for Flex Data Services side of things. What we define is this factory called, which in this case we call Spring, which maps onto Spring Factory, and that's an environment that you can download and deploy. Basically, what it does is that integrates with your Spring environment, and Spring instantiates the class as you want it done, and passes it to Flex in that way. So if I look at my application context for Spring, so this will hopefully be familiar to you. You can see here the mortgage fee actually maps onto this class, but it also has a dependency on rate finder. So it references the rate finder being, and so on, and rate finder. So you get a very simple example, but hopefully that gives you an illustration on. You're happy now? Okay, good. Yeah, okay, good. So yeah. So the whole idea is really what we want to do is we want to make sure it's very easy to implement or to integrate with the existing frameworks that are out there. Certainly don't want to replace all the work that's already been done on the Spring. So here, if I run this simple example. So if I want to apply for a £200,000 mortgage, calculate then I have to stamp up £1,073 pounds a month, which sounds pretty painful. But a more complicated example here, which I can load up. So I'll load up this inventory here in this window, and I'll load up store in this window. So again, this is implemented using this integration with Spring as well. Stuff. It goes a little bit further. So if I open up admin.xml, this uses the product service definition. And if we, well, again, if I go through all the results, you'll actually see that all that actually ends up mapping to this particular class, which is again uses data access objects to implement it to extends Spring. So here's my inserts and my updates and my data to actually build that. So that's all we actually need to actually use Spring, actually have a full persistent environment for this particular application. So just to show you that working, here if I go to Hibernate, what's that called? I've chosen the wrong one. No, I haven't. New example here, and I'm just going for a test. I haven't got the image in this case, this price is going to be 99. And I've got 100 in stock. Apply the changes to that. So that adds that new record into the database using that class. Now, if I refresh this window here, you can see it's added that result set. It hasn't got an image, so that image link is the program. So that's pretty. That's basically as easy as it gets in terms of implementing Spring. So yeah, all of that work we've done with Spring framework. So we're starting to explore Flex data services and how we can integrate with that. And I think I've kind of got ahead on my presentation, but what I wanted to do is really quickly just pass through another couple of slides to introduce Flex data services in a little bit more detail. So one of the things we think about with rich internet application technology is that, hopefully we've shown some examples of the user interfaces kind of orders, transitions, and effects, and all the stuff that you expect from an environment with an effective graphics and a drawing API, such as Flash. But there's still some traditional limitations. So, publish and subscribe messaging in rich internet applications is a limitation. Synchronization between data tiers is actually quite complex. So, how do we get around some of those challenges? So, a simple use case. What we can do is we can actually map messages produced by clients. In this case, client B produces a message. We can actually map it to a messaging service, which is a service provided by Flex Data Services. Again, Flex Data Services deployed in your JS TM, and then makes these services available. So what you can actually do here is actually, as B publishes the message, A and C can actually subscribe to the results of that message. What we can do is actually go further and actually say, well, yeah, that's fine, we can push messages to and from the client, but actually it's far more likely that I need to integrate with a back-end enterprise service bus or some sort of architecture. In the Java world, I might want to use JMS to deliver that type of functionality and to integrate with my message queues. So how do we do that? Well, we have a JMS adapter, which is part of Flex Data Services, which allows us to do that integration. So, a simple example might be that the JMS system actually produces a message, pushes it to our adapter, which means we then actually publishing a message on our destination, which then all the listeners to that destination are actually going to get information pushed to them. So the reason I went through Flex messaging is when we come on to see Flex Data Services and how we do data synchronization across tiers, is Flex messaging, which is actually the core infrastructure or sort of layer which actually allows us to do the communication between multiple tiers and actually allows us to deliver some pretty unique capabilities. So, moving on from my Spring examples, I've got a collaboration example. So, what I've done here is I've built a very simple chat application. And the way that this works is that I have a producer which is mapped onto a destination called chat. Again, that destination is here in my messaging config. And you can see, so there's my destination chat. It's got some properties and so on, including the channel that's delivered by it being RTMP. So there are a couple of channels by which we can deliver this type of capability. One is AMF, which is ActionScript message format, which is a lightweight protocol which delivers basically name-value pairs across a binary connection. Then there's RTMP, which is our real-time protocol. So AMF is a polling mechanism, which you can RTMP does real-time push. So if you want to do a real-time push to a player, it's RTMP. And by the way, there's the same protocol that delivers streaming video for Flash content. So if you've been to various dozens of websites around the world that stream video Flash content, RTMP is what they actually use to push that information out to you. So to actually define a chat application, all I need to do is to define two different classes of channels. So a producer, this called producer, and a consumer, again also called consumer. And you can see that actually what I'm doing in my function here, sending, is that basically I'm saying for the body of the message, put message.text, which is in other words, whatever I typed into that text box, and then just say send a message. So it's pretty simple. And then on the consumer, it's just bound to return. So if I run this application, there's a chat application, and I can do file the window. Copy and paste that. So now if I chat in this first window, you can see that the message appears instantly in the other window behind it. And so on, it'll work both ways. Well, that's great. Okay, so we can chat between two applications, a very simple application. But what if I want to integrate with Java environment? So I want to integrate with JMS. How will I do that? Well, I'll do that in basically the same way. So I'll just close the browser if I want to. So let me just open up the browser again. And here on the messaging, I have this application entitled JMS Integration. Again, it's a very simple chat application. This time we've got a log on as Ben. And again, I have the same chat window that I already saw. Now what I need to do is to actually run up the Java application. So if I tune into my Tomcat instance, and in here I've got my usual stuff. Where is it? It's Java chat.bat. So if I run Java chat, very well, I haven't tested this today. So hopefully this works. It pops up a little Java window for me, a Java application. This time username is going to be Fred, and I can type on there. So, hopefully you see it on the screen. So, when I type now in the Java world, well, that's pushing the information up to a JMS topic, which is pushing into Flex Data Services, which is then pushing down to my Flex application on the Apache player, and vice versa. So I can say hi, front. And it works. So again, we can quite easily tie those two words together very nicely. And we can go get a little bit further. Anybody working here with Ajax on the web pages? A few nods. Yeah. Okay. Great. So I mentioned Ajax earlier, and there is a framework which we're delivering called again, which is an open source framework called Spry. So I've actually got in this application, I've got two things running here. This one here on your left is this pet store. This is Adobe Flex. So I'm going to Flex application for this pet store. This over here is actually implemented in Ajax using the Spry framework. And again, you can see I can do all sorts of things as you'd expect in Ajax. I can sort this table of information. So that's great. But what we can actually do is we can actually do real-time push of data to my Ajax application. So because we can use things like Flash Player and RTMP as a protocol to do real-time push, there's something you can't do with an Ajax application very easily. You have to have some sort of polling mechanism, which is A, client intensive, B, network intensive, C, server-side intensive, and it's a bit of well, it's not very nice to code. So what we want to do is, what we can actually, you can't see it in here, but there is a tiny 1 pixel Flash movie running in this page, which allows us to push information to it. And we're actually able to use something called the Flex Ajax Bridge, which allows us to push information from ActionScript classes out to JavaScript in the Ajax page. So, for example, if I choose bird cages here, there's bird cages there in this example. I choose bird cages and I will change the quantity of bird cages from 100, which is there, to 150. And I save that, you'll notice that the Ajax page also refreshed and updated. So again, we've now got we're using Flex Data Services on the Java server tier to actually push it out to straightforward Ajax clients. So does it work with other Ajax frameworks? Absolutely. So here I've got another popular framework, Dojo. So I can do exactly the same thing. So here bird cages are quantity 150, which is bird cages here again, and the state quantity 99 this time. And when I save over here, top box change, and so on. So again, we're really focusing on how we can leverage, various aspects of the capability, like messaging, like real-time push, to work with Ajax technology. We're absolutely behind Ajax as a technology for delivering great experiences on the web. So. Click on, and I'm running through pretty quickly, so we're making good progress, which means the sun's gone down now, but as you get out there and so that was Flex messaging, and what I wanted to do is just quickly say that Flex messaging infrastructure underpins our other services, basically, namely the data management service, and I wanted to cover this off, particularly in how it relates to the Hibernate framework. Again, another popular framework. Are we using Hibernate? No?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Okay, this one person using Hibernate. So basically, the concept behind data services is that we've implemented data synchronization, support for occasionally connected computers going online and offline, data paging of large result sets, and so on. And we've provided, as part of Flex Data Services, a whole series of standard service adapters which you can use. So you can use Java objects, JMS, Hibernate is a popular framework. Of course, you can then integrate with other Adobe technology like Cold Fusion, or you can build your own service adapters. And look, I'll skip through this pretty quickly. So the reason we built this is because rich internet applications kind of actually introduce a bit of a problem. When you work with traditional HTML pages or the traditional page-centric model, the client doesn't usually have its own copy of data. It doesn't have its own copy of data. You go back to the server, you request something, you get some data back in your HTML page, you request some more, and so on, and you get this page-based infrastructure. So, as a developer, all you need to worry about is how do you synchronize data from your middle tier to your back-end tier, and then that problem's been solved. By Hibernate is one way of doing it, and as you know, there are dozens of other ways to do so. So, data objects, DJVs, and so on. When you build a rich internet application, be it using Flash or Flex or other technologies, the client now has a copy of its own application, which is great.